we're kind of stopping at the edge of the colony. So when you're not with a DLNR representative, the interior of all the islands is off limits, and then some islands like these offshore and Mokumanu especially are totally closed to the public. But this one is daylight hours on the perimeter. But this volunteer trip allows you to come into the seabird colony, and we have wedge-tail shearwaters nesting, and this is not so bad where we're going to step into. It's more sparse. I wouldn't take you into the real dense colony, but you still have to be aware. And you can see there's a burrow right here where you see the sandy part. It's all native species, which you used to not be able to look across and just see that so easily. So we have the naupaka, and we'll stay out of the bushier plants, anything that makes a lot of noise that the birds will get upset with. And you can see the wedge-tails are still flying. They kind of stop their activity more in the daytime, but we're lucky enough that there's some birds around so you can actually see whose habitat you're restoring. And this area is, we cut a lot of these trees partly because of the crazy ants, and this is one of the areas that hasn't been as successful for the birds nesting. And then just on the other side of where we'll be working is really successful. So, and once these bags are full, this plant, I'll probably just compost this one here. That's how. And then I can show you once you guys are in here, the Assistasia is a little more tricky.
I've done this for about 1.5 years now. I started back in January 2013, happened to see a small item in the newspaper and jumped in, and it was one of the first trips over to the Mokes, to Mokuiki, and I figured partly it's free kayaking and partly I just enjoy working in the environment. It's such a beautiful island. So I got started with that, and back last year went out at least a dozen times to both the Mokes and to Popoya, Flat Island. And then I've simply stayed in contact with them and hooked up on a number of them. Tried to get out again this year, but in January it was pretty much a washout because of between the wind and the rain, we were unable to get out to the Mokes much at all. But this is my second trip out here to Mokuauia, and it's just fun. It's worth doing. It's interesting work. And I'm also a photographer, so I do a lot of photography. It's a great opportunity to get pictures that you can't otherwise, particularly climbing up the Mokes.
I really appreciate the trust and the kuleana to take care of these areas. It's a real privilege to be given that opportunity. And I grew up in Kailua, swimming out to these islands, and actually grew up working within this field, and watching certain things are so hard to make a change in. And so when you get to see a visual change, it's so much more meaningful and sustaining for you. And when you get to share that, I really appreciate that I have the opportunity to have people out that can also feel that recovery of a place. In some ways, it gives you hope for other things much bigger than this. So if we can recover a small island, if we have really limited resources, but we're still able to make a difference, that's inspiring for the bigger scale issues. And so I just really appreciate that opportunity, and I'm thankful that it's been as successful as it has been. It's mixed. So you kind of pull it from the bottom and shake. Yeah, but you look for its